Welcome to the Elevated Marketing podcast show that is designed for business owners and marketers who are tired of overhyped advice. We talk through what we're testing, we challenge assumptions, and we share what's really happening in the world of marketing, which is messy, creative, and always evolving. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Elevated Marketing podcast. My name is Jennifer Denny. If you are new to the show, and I am the founder and owner of Elevated Marketing Solutions. So, it's almost the end of January, and maybe my audience has noticed, and maybe they haven't, but I have been publishing less. Or maybe you will notice that I am publishing less. And so I just wanted to bring that up because I'm trying to be very intentional about what I talk about and what is the most valuable that I think for our audience. So if you see me publishing less, that's why, but who knows, I might get a wild hair and decide that I need to publish even more. I might be more sporadic, but I'm going to commit to every other week now instead of every week. So, okay. So today's topic is I'm very passionate about, and I've been wanting to talk about this for a very long time. It's sorting through the truths and the half truths and, making sure that I really took a scientific approach when it comes to this topic. And what we are talking about is the truth in these AI visibility tools. And for my listeners or readers, this is the idea that I am tracking that I show up in LLMs or AI search engines or whatever different answer engine optimization, search everywhere optimization, however we want to call it. Is my brand showing up there? How often? Where do I rank? And these are all things that are very familiar to us in marketing is, wanting to be able to show our clients or know as a business that I am gaining traction in an area that is obviously growing. That's another subject to talk about. But there's been this flurry of tools that have came out, and they're making really bold claims. And I don't blame them in an essence that they had to come out with something. Here's where it's the mic drop is they're not accurate. They're not true. They're half truths in the tracking that is available, and we need to be super honest with ourselves and that we're trying to buy this false sense of security. Now, don't get me wrong, as a data-driven marketing, I want this so bad, and I've always maintained that we do what I call triangulated data analysis, where I don't think any tool's ever been 100% like truthful. And the truth is somewhere there in the middle, and we have to find that truth. But I think as buyers of marketing, we are wanting those simple graphs and simple truths of this is exactly how it works. And so, what I want to talk about, and I'm not going to go through all the reasons why these tools are not accurate because I have 10, and in my real research, I probably have 20 reasons why technologically it's not possible for them to provide you what we all seek so much. And I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about like what we can do and what we can look at and the truths and the realities of that. So let's talk through these. And again, I'm not going to give all of them. You're going to have to go over to my blog post. I know that's a marketing like clickbaity thing to say, but and again, my blog post is abbreviated because otherwise I would write this incredible novel that, truth be told, my own mentors are like, Jennifer, nobody's going to read that. And they're right. And so I want to give these like short answers. So the first problem is that AI responses in ChatGPT or Perplexity or AI overview answers or whatever have you, they are dynamic. They are not static. So every answer that is generated, the same question can be asked twice and in exact wording, and two different people are going to get two different responses. And if you think about that in terms of trying to measure, that's like trying to measure everybody in the world or everybody in your audience's answer when they're going to be different for each individual person. And so there's no single version of an answer that can be tracked or even indexed, which is how Google search engines worked before, is they were indexing and you were wanting to be part of the index. And so they could provide these tools that would tell you how often people were searching. And even those were not 100% accurate. And I've written about and talked about that as well. But this is even further from that, in that every single search that goes out, there isn't this index where they're keeping it. It's happening in real time. And so when you think about that, like in terms of tools, how can they possibly tell you that? And the answer is they can't. And that doesn't sit well personally with me as a data-driven marketer. Like, oh my gosh, like there's this like potential black hole, but there are ways that, we can track or think about in order to know, and I'll get to those. But and I said kind of number two in there too, is that these platforms are not providing an index of responses. There isn't this like keyword planner tool that we would see with Google where we could see keywords of how people would search, and in fact, that's not even how people are searching anymore. They're searching with voice in their phone, and they're talking in full sentences, and they're having multiple conversations. And I just want you to think about when you're having conversations with people, the conversation you have with person A is friend A is going to be completely different than friend B. And to simulate that and say that you are or are not showing up, okay, so let's just think down that path, and we're like, okay, well, but they could like maybe index some of that, but remember, there's not an index. So then there's APIs, and these tools are like saying that they have APIs, which is like this computer like connection to real user queries. And that is not, those real user outputs are not being given to anyone. In fact, it is the secret sauce of these platforms. And so they're not going to give it, and they're never going to give it. What we have to use is our own brains on how is my consumer thinking about and questioning my product or service, which we should have been doing for a long time. And we should have been providing that in our content and our marketing. But the next one, so that's number three. Number four is there's no baseline to compare it against. I mean, it's all new. we've never seen this before. Response number 5, responses changed based on prompt wording. I'm trying to control myself on like going too deep into all of these because I'll be here for hours with you. The sources are not cited consistency. Tracking tools hide their mythology. You might be paying for what's called simulated prompts, where they have all these bots that are out there and simulating different prompts. They're not real mentions. And if you think about like how potentially AI works and it understands different logins and users and behaviors that they've had before, they're affecting their own results as they're continually asking for that information. And just think about the manpower, not manpower, let me the machine power needed to do that when we're struggling with the machine power needed just to have AI. So, they have to do something because their entire model of, uh, generating revenue on these tools is they have to quote unquote pretend that they know what's going on and how to give you the truth. And this is very similar. Like I've been around since the beginning of SEO, and this is very similar to how it was in the beginning. And those thinkers that could think strategically are the ones that like win at this game, and that's who you want to be in front of. That's who you want to work with. Um, the ones that are giving you the simple answers are probably, in my opinion, not who you should work with, because yeah, it makes it easier to buy. And I just want you to scope out to, if it was that easy, anybody could do it. And that it's not easy. So what can we track right now? So we can track if, within the answers there are the ability to click over and get to a website. We can't see everything that happened prior, so all the conversations before they decided to actually click through. We can see that they do click through if what we call UTMs in our world don't break, which they've been known to, and then they fall into direct traffic. So we can see, like, once they get to the website, and this, by the way, is why we're seeing less traffic, because that is what is happening. Is all these searches that we would be going through mindless, Google searches, not mindless, but trying to answer our questions, now have become all answered in this black box. um, we can track, though, that there is an increase in those direct traffic. I hate the direct traffic. I hate that it's called direct, because everybody thinks it's just I'm directly entering a web address, and that's not the truth. It really means that Google doesn't understand what the referral source is. And think about that from a business standpoint with Google, and that if I drop UTMs by accident, does that help me from Google standpoint for people to not see all the information and how much people are using like a ChatGPT or a Perplexity or whatever have you? Absolutely. And has Google ever been known to hide the truth and stack the deck so that they can make more money? Absolutely. They have a lawsuit against them right now with the government, in which they have lost for that exact thing. And so, yeah, it's going to be in direct traffic. What we can track is maybe branded search volume in Google Search Console. And I've written about and talked about this before, is, as people are making these queries and going through and searching on things, or they're seeing you on social media, they're going to search for you more by name because you've branded yourself, hopefully. And so you should be seeing an increase in branded searches. So that's something that you can track. Another thing you can track in Search Console is an increase in impressions versus clicks, because it has been said by Google that means you're showing up in AI overviews. And so we want to look at that as a trend that you are there. Um, we could track in Google Analytics more clicks to the homepage. That would also give truth to people maybe remembering the actual brand name and directly entering that URL. Remember, we can't look at direct traffic, but if we see more people making it to the homepage, because people don't put in a lot of times, they're not going to put in that extra effort to go down the rabbit hole of what's the additional URL that I need to get exactly where I want. They want to come to that homepage and they want you to make it easy on them on the website to get to what they want. And so your navigation of your website is super important and more than it has ever been. Side topic. But we could recommend that. And so you could do your own structured prompt testing. You could ask your own audience to go out and pick people to do their own searching and see what they find. And you know, you got to go back to statistical relevance and can I get enough people to do that and the manual labor of that. And I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying it's hard. So you know, I've written about like all the things that we need to focus on, so I don't want to go in that, but we need to be mindful of the manual work in order to use judgment over hype. um, I think a lot of people, you know, maybe spend time on social media or wherever else, and they see one article or they see one opinion, and the person who's screaming the loudest is the one that they listen to. And in my opinion, sometimes the person who's screaming the loudest is trying to overcompensate for a lack of confidence. And that's why I am trying to maybe post less, put more out there, but be more mindful of this is what people really need to see. I'm probably still publishing content on the blog post, just not making it to a video or something to this nature. So, you know, certainly follow along on elevatedmarketing.solutions or sign up for our newsletter. I, you know, put out that newsletter on the website that does summarize all the blog posts that I have written about in a month. So, um, are we using some of these tools? I have to. I have to know what they're putting out there so that I can understand what's being sold to my audience and my potential audience and see if it's right, see if it's wrong. And somewhere along the way, it might start to become more truthful, just like it did with SEO. I don't know. The truth is certainly to be told, but in the story, as we go along here, I want people to be okay with living in the uncomfortable right now because it's the truth. It's the absolute truth. And find those things that are trackable, track those, but simple answers and simple tools is not the answer. So, all right, my name is Jennifer Denny, and if you enjoyed today's show, I just kind of talked about and dropped about how to kind of follow along. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, trying to be more active on Facebook. So let's connect, and everybody take care. Bye now.